I'm Megan Skidmore, and welcome to the Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. I'm a woman, daughter, sister, spouse, mother, life coach, and person of faith on a mission to normalize asking questions and allowing doubts on a faith journey and all aspects of life. Join me as I bring this traditionally taboo topic out of the shadows of shame and into the light. I firmly believe we normalize through more talking and engaging in discussion. More talking peels back, exposes, and erases the layers of shame associated with asking questions and allowing doubts. When we are more authentic about our journey, we are more powerful because shame has no power in the face of authenticity. For the month of October, I'm offering a pay what you can session, which is a regular coaching session with different options to pay what you can and get a full coaching experience. I would love to help you process through anything that might be on your mind or on your heart. Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast is a proud member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, which is part of the Dialogue Journal found at dialoguejournal.com. Founder Eugene England was a Mormon writer, teacher, and scholar who wrote, "My faith encourages my curiosity and awe. It thrusts me out into relationship with all creation and encourages me to enter into dialogue. My hope is that this podcast is an extension of that vision." Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast. And I have Kat Wordsworth with me today. We connected on social media. And at first, all I knew you by was your Instagram handle, which is about_doubt. And anytime I see that theme represented, I am always curious to learn more and get to know who's behind the scenes, so to speak, and find out their story and what prompted them to create the account and also find out where they're at. And so I was thrilled to get to connect with you and invite you to be a guest today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And I'm grateful that we were able to make it work because you're about 6 hours ahead of me.
Yes, as the listeners can probably tell by my accent, I am in the UK.
So yes. So yeah, can you take a minute and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and your origin story, all the things.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm Kat Wordsworth. Wordsworth as in William Wordsworth, who wrote the Daffodil poem. I live in North England with my family, my 2 children, 11 and 8. Quite a full-on age in terms of the taxi service that I provide on most weeknights.
For sure.
Yeah, I was raised in a Christian family, all sorts of different denominations, and have continued attending lots of different denominations as an adult. And I suppose the main focus of what we're talking about tonight is that probably about 15 years ago now, I just went through a real faith crisis with capital letters. And I'm sure we'll unpack that as this conversation goes forward. But yes, I have been through the trenches of doubt at its worst. So yeah.
Wow. 15 years.
Yeah.
That's quite some time.
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to dig through that, as you
I'm sure
so aptly put it. So you are in the UK. You mentioned before I hit record, you mentioned that you're in York.
Yes.
Is that where you were raised? Is that where your faith of origin is?
No, I'm actually from London. I hate to confirm the stereotype that all English people are from London, but no, I moved to York for university and then stayed because it's just such a beautiful place. It's, if any of your listeners have never visited, then definitely add it to a list because it is just a stunning city, absolutely seeped in history, which I admit to taking for granted.
Yeah, I did mention earlier when we were chatting that I have been able to visit and loved it. So if we could just maybe go a little bit deeper about, you said you were a member of various Christian denominations and sects growing up. Can you tell us a little bit more about that part of your background?
So they all I'm not sure how I know that terminology is different between the US and the UK. So I attended just a variety of different local churches. One of them was a Baptist church, but that means a different thing than it does in the US.
Can you
I've
tell
been to
us a little bit more? Yeah, tell us about that.
To be honest, I'm not sure, but I just
Okay.
know that the Southern Baptist tradition is not the same as the Baptist Union in the UK.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure on which points they deviate. I'm not part of a Baptist church anymore,
Okay.
not for any bad reason.
That's
I've
fair.
also been through Anglican churches, so the Church of
Mm-hmm.
England,
Mm-hmm.
which I suppose is probably the most common church in the UK. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now I just attend a local church that isn't Anglican. But yeah, it's been interesting to kind of have experiences across a wide breadth of denominations in the different cultures and the different way that things are
Mm-hmm.
done and the different focuses of different traditions. It's been good to kind of get that variety and get that depth.
Yeah,
Um,
I
and
agree.
also with the context of doubt to see kind of maybe the places where it's easier to admit to having questions and the places where it's harder. Yeah.
Right. If we can go back a little bit then to when
Yeah.
you really started to, I call it for me, I experienced a pivot in my
Mm,
faith journey. It took an unexpected turn
yeah.
or direction, and I refer to it now as a faith expansion. But if
Mm.
we can rewind a little bit, can you share with us what was going on for you and what brought about this significant point in your journey?
Yeah, there is a defining moment where it all crumbled, but as
Mm-hmm.
is often the case, that moment was the result of so many other moments that had all built up to it. So the the main thing happened when I was working for a church, and part of the music team, and I was at a worship leaders conference. And during a break, I went to the toilet, sat down, and thought, I just can't do this anymore. I just don't think the same things as the other people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Was this when
but
you were in the Anglican
yes, it was.
church? Okay. Okay.
So, but what had actually led to that moment was so much. I mean, so much. I did
Mm-hmm.
literally write a book about what led to that moment.
Oh, you did.
Um, so it was a history of having the wrong expectations about what faith was supposed to look like, and
Mm-hmm.
particularly what faith was supposed to feel like. It was added to by being a deep introvert in a culture that often kind of associates faith or strong faith with being extroverted and being able to talk about it and be very expressive about it. It was having questions, but suppressing them and suppressing them and suppressing them instead of trying to deal with them. And of course, we know that's not often a very healthy way to deal with
Right.
anything. And doing that had just led to the questions just being absolutely tainted and infected with fear and shame. And I
Mm-hmm.
think once that's set in, it's really, really hard to get out of that place. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
all of those components and more just overwhelmed me when I was sat at this conference being asked to just feel things and do things and say things that I wasn't comfortable with. So that was my pivot moment where I thought, no, I've actually got to
Mm-hmm.
face this. And what do I think anymore? Not what do I want to think so that I don't get into trouble, but what is it that I actually believe?
Yeah, that is such a lonely and
Mm,
almost frightening place to be in,
definitely. Yeah.
especially when traditionally we don't talk about those
No.
things. You use such perfect words to explain what you were experiencing. It was tainted and infected with fear and shame, all of those
Yeah.
things. And I'm guessing that's one of the reasons that led to you starting this Instagram account is to have a place to express that. I know that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast was to
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
to let's just talk about these things. Can we peel back the layers and just see
Yeah.
what's underneath there. And because the more we can talk about it, the more the
Yeah.
shame cannot exist there. It can't,
Yeah,
it does, it begins
definitely.
to dissolve.
So that's, yeah. I mean, the Instagram is quite funny. I don't have social media of any other sort. And it was really two things. It was, as you say, the pressure of all of that suppressed
Mm-hmm.
things going on inside me that absolutely needed to get out, combined with the slightly different mental state that I found myself in during the COVID lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So in the UK, we were just in our houses, we were allowed out 30 minutes a day. So I suddenly found myself homeschooling two quite small children, as
Oh
well
my
as trying to
goodness.
fit in my work. And I think something slightly snapped and I just needed a release. And that is how an Instagram account was formed.
Oh.
To start with, it was anonymous. I didn't put my name to it purely because of the fear of someone I knew finding it. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's funny to think back to that time because now I really don't care about that at all. Um, but
I
yes,
think
I
we kind
just
of work up to that, right?
yeah,
We kind of
definitely.
grow
It's
into
it's
that.
a journey, yeah. But no, I started it absolutely to let stuff out and also
Mm-hmm.
to try and find other people who had the same experience or kind of at least understood what I was going through. Because I had a few people I could talk to, very few, but nobody had actually been through the same thing. And to now have found a whole community of people has had such a significant impact on where
Mm-hmm.
I am now with my faith. Just to know that it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
just me. It wasn't that I was just a complete and utter failure or doing anything wrong, but just that
Right.
there were wider ways to experience faith than I had ever been exposed to. So Instagram has been, yeah, a huge part of my journey, which I do find funny because I'm not, as my children will attest, I'm not good with computers. I'm not good with social media. I'm not even good at replying to messages, as you can attest. Ah.
I cannot purport to, present myself as somebody who is amazing at responding to messages. So I am not one to judge. So I wonder if you talked about this moment you went to this
Mm,
conference, and that was a huge pivot moment for you
yeah,
where everything seemed to culminate and you just knew you couldn't ignore this
yeah,
anymore. You had to be true to your
yeah,
heart, your soul, your spirit.
yeah.
Are you Are you able to share with us what some of those beliefs were that had just been you had questions about and that had just been kind of percolating there at the surface for so long?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because the word doubt means different things to different people. It's really just this umbrella term for all sorts of different things that you can
Sure.
go through. So for some people, it might be particular questions about theology or about particular churches, or I don't know, questions about God's nature or action in the world or something. For me, it was the capital D doubt of whether God is there, so whether it is actually true or not. And that is what had been nagging and nagging and nagging away at me because, as I said, I didn't experience things in the way that I thought I was supposed to. And the easiest route for your brain to take in that situation is, well, it's either not true or I'm doing it wrong. So
Mhm.
I kind of lived with those two possibilities for a long time, which obviously is very unhealthy for your soul and your heart and your mind. Um, but yeah, I've been through all of the different doubts that you can have. I think that if you had a tick list, I can tick the lot, which yes, is I laugh about it now, but it's awful and it's so lonely and it's so isolating and just terrifying. I think the thing that in hindsight I realize is that throughout all of this, up until kind of the second pivot point in my story, um,
Mhm.
everything has just been underpinned by fear. The fear of getting it wrong and the fear of God being angry with me and the fear of losing
Mhm.
community if I'm honest and being isolated from family and friends. But kind of at the point where I was working for the church, I had no friends that weren't Christians. So it was the kind of question of, well, if I'm honest about this, what will happen? Who will be left? Um,
Right.
and of course, I was working for a church, so it was my income as well. So it's just so messy, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, when it's tied to our circles, our
yeah,
communities, and yes, in your case, your livelihood, I think that amplifies the
definitely.
fear factor
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that worry of not just, you know, how will I continue
mm,
to belong or fit in, but will I?
yeah,
How
definitely.
how will I be received or not received?
Yeah,
So I think that this idea of certainty versus
mm,
uncertainty is so highly prized and taught that we should be seeking certainty, at least in my faith upbringing in the LDS
definitely.
church. The idea of uncertainty is not, it for sure was not rewarded or seen in the same way. Um, that being able to admit, I'm really not sure
Mm,
about fill in the blank, whether that's an idea, a concept, or something considered to be doctrine or a tenet of one's faith. I think I hear a little bit more in certain places, like when I meet folks like you,
mm,
they're able to and willing to say, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I so I love that you are able to, and I'm curious how was that process for you to be able to arrive to a point that you could release that,
mm.
I guess, hold that seeking for certainty. It kind of grabs hold of us.
Yeah. I mean, difficult is the answer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like you, they kind of meant the same thing. To
Mm-hmm.
have faith, you had to be sure. And to be
Mm-hmm.
sure, that meant certainty, absolute
Mm-hmm.
assurance, everything in, no questions or kind of concerns, nothing holding you back. And yeah, moving away from that has been difficult because it's a scenario where it's not that that isn't true for some people. I've got very wonderful close friends who don't experience doubts and don't have questions, and they would say they're absolutely sure. But it's been for me a journey of just realizing that I may have doubts, but I do also have a genuine, deep faith. So I experience both. Therefore, in my life, faith can't mean certainty because I have both. I yeah, I don't fit that definition. And as you say, that was, if I'd said that 15 years ago to myself, I would have been scared by that idea. But I've come across more and more people who do agree and say, yeah, that is a way that you can have faith and and hold it despite doubts. And even people go further and say that kind of, I'm sure I've seen people saying that to be certain isn't to have faith. I'm not sure what I think about that, but there seems to be a whole spectrum, and it's just at the end of the day, I can't ever judge what is in someone else's heart
Mm-hmm.
about their faith. Just as no one should judge me, I know that I have faith and I also have doubts. So for me, faith can't mean certainty.
Yeah.
I feel like that's quite garbled, but I hope it gets the message across. It's
No,
been a really, really difficult one because that phrase, you have to be certain, really, really gets into your head and can terrorize you at points, I think.
I appreciate you saying that and
Yeah.
being so just open about your thoughts on that. I too, in my journey, have come to see how the opposite of faith, isn't doubt. It's
Mm,
certainty, and we can't
yeah.
have certainty and faith. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah.
Um, I love what you posted a few months ago on your Instagram account. You said, I see my own life of faith as an ongoing rebuilding and renovation project.
Mm.
Beautiful. Actually, that's a quote by Pete
I was
Enns,
going
but
to
I mean,
say, I think that is
you,
a quote, isn't it? I don't
yes,
want to claim it when it's not
no, no, no,
mine.
but obviously it
Yeah.
resonated with you. Tell
Yeah.
me, can you share with us more what you mean by that? like how that shows up for you.
I think years ago, I would have thought that kind of this idea of faith as, a tick list of beliefs. And once you can tick all those off the list, then that's it, you're sorted. You can just move forward with that and everything will fall into place. And as it happens, that isn't the way that life works. Well, definitely not for me. And it's been a case of finding myself in situations and thinking, okay, well, how can faith follow me into this situation? Do I need to widen my understanding of anything to allow faith to come with me here? And yeah, I suppose the renovation word stuck in my head with that quote, because as anyone that's ever done building work will know, yes, you end up with something that you really like, but it's a flipping heck messy time and destructive time getting to it. And that is how doubt can be sometimes. It can be a real brute force in your life, making you really, really deeply question things which you've absolutely held to as, pillars of your life. And that can be really, really painful to kind of, rebuild, clear out the rubble, dust it all out, clean it all out, do it up again. And then the point is that in 10 years, it might need updating again. Something else might happen. You might need to take your faith somewhere else that you never thought you would need to take it, and you might need to look at again. Yeah.
You know what I'm loving about hearing you share and having this conversation is there's so much that I can relate when you talk about having a tick list. I probably called it a checklist, but
Yes.
same idea, where you're taught, or the messages are shared, that there's a certain list of things. Brene Brown said, living into our values means that we do more than profess our values. We practice them. We walk our talk. We are clear about what we believe and hold important, and we take care that our intentions, words, thoughts, and behaviors align with those beliefs. End quote. Identifying your core values is like thinking ahead of time. It reduces decision fatigue. It becomes your North Star, guiding you as you navigate new decisions or decisions you've come to realize that perhaps you didn't get to choose in the first place. Click the link in the show notes for my Determine Your Values guide. Take the first steps to living a values-driven and aligned life. Identify what matters most to you. You need to do, you need to believe, you need to achieve, and then that is what qualifies you to be fill in the blank, a certain type of believer, or
I do find it fascinating because I've spoken to people from across the world now who are Christians but have had very different kind of Christian backgrounds to me, just because I'm in the UK and people are elsewhere and things are different. But this experience seems to be quite universal for people. This kind of questioning things, not knowing where to go with it, the shame, the stigma that's attached to it, the fear, and it's just. I mean, it's fascinating, but it's also heartbreaking that kind of people are going through this in all sorts of different types of church. Yeah.
Yeah, that is what I love about that, is things like that just show me how much more alike we are than different, regardless of where we are in the world. And honestly, regardless of our faith background, there's so many things that are more similar about us than there are different. This journey of coming to a place of giving yourself permission to acknowledge your questions, acknowledge your doubts. It first starts there, and then moving to a place of, okay, what do I want to do with them? And who do I want to share them with? Or do I? And what that timeline looks like. It's going to be different for everybody, but that process is so similar. And even though we give ourselves permission to acknowledge them, it's a totally different journey to begin to share them with our communities, whether that's our family or our faith communities, our work communities. So I would love to hear how that part went,
Yeah.
and maybe it's still ongoing for you.
I mean, I suppose it was ongoing until I published a book, which is essentially a memoir, literally called "Let's Talk About Doubt." So it
Okay.
couldn't have
We'll
been
have
that
to
much.
leave a
Much.
link to
Thank
that.
you. Yes.
Absolutely.
Um, I think it happened very gradually. It happened by letting one person in, then one other person in, then another person in, all stemming from just that it's unbearable to live such a split life
Mm-hmm.
where you feel like your closest friends don't actually know what's going on in your heart, and you feel like you're the biggest hypocrite or liar or in the room, and you're just constantly wearing a mask. And I just couldn't take that anymore. um so I suppose I let enough people in that I had a kind of safety net.
Mm-hmm.
And then I suppose Instagram probably came in at some point around there. And then a few more people who I knew found out, but I suppose the circle just widened. And then it reached a point where I suppose it goes in tandem with the journey of shame, that once I'd kind of really accepted that it wasn't that I was necessarily doing anything wrong, it wasn't that I was a failure or that I was the worst person in the world. Once you've released that shame a bit, there's less embarrassment, I suppose. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and alongside that was the messages that kept coming saying, "Oh my goodness, me too. Oh, I can't believe I've
Mm-hmm.
found this. That is exactly how I feel." So it's just little by little, step by step, all of those things led me to a place where, yes, my work colleagues who aren't religious have read my book, and I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'll happily talk to anyone about it, because all I want to do now with it is just open the conversation up a bit more, so that it doesn't people don't have to suffer in silence. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's really what the Instagram account and what the book and having conversations like this is about. I mean, as you do, as point of this podcast, is just to
Mm-hmm.
open up the conversation and try and get rid of the stigma, because it is the shame and the stigma that keeps people in the awful consequences of doubt for too long, and stops them from kind of reaching the place where doubt can actually be a huge catalyst for faith and really push you forward. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. What you said resonates with me so deeply. You said it's unbearable to live
Yeah,
a split life.
absolutely.
It is really hard. You do get to a point where you can't keep putting up a persona
No.
of maybe who you used to be or how you used to behave or things you used
Yeah.
to say. It's just it
And it,
will kill you. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
spiritually,
definitely.
emotionally, mentally, right?
And it took so much for me to make that shift and start letting people in. I mean, I'm sure you'll have heard the phrase British stiff upper lip. We don't, we're not good at talking about our emotions. We're not good at being honest. And this is honesty of the deepest kind, kind of letting people into
Right.
that part of your life. But it got to the point where I was prioritizing what other people thought of me
Mm-hmm.
over my own well-being, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I had to choose me, and I had to be honest. Yeah, to hold myself together, really.
I think that's probably more common
Yeah,
than perhaps we realize that we do put others above ourselves at times until we just can't do that anymore.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's interesting. You've talked about yourself as an introvert, someone who doesn't really share their emotions. And, you know, interesting that one of the ways that was really helpful and maybe I could even say therapeutic for you was writing that memoir,
Yeah,
something that's
yeah,
actually very public. And then now you have become more open on your Instagram account as
yeah,
well. Um,
I suppose I should add that when I wrote the book, it was never intended to be published. It
Really?
wasn't. No, it was an entirely cathartic exercise to try and order my thoughts. I've tried to explain it that it was writing the book that allowed the ending of the book to happen in a way. It was all actually part of the process.
Hmm.
Um, just ordering a decade of mess and questions and yeah,
Hmm.
just getting it out of my brain onto paper that I could
Hmm.
then sit and work with and edit and section and make it readable and make it make
Hmm.
sense. Yeah. But no, it never was supposed to be read by other people. But then as the Instagram, yeah, kept helping people, I just thought, well, I'll see. I'll push a few doors and see if
Hmm.
anybody would be interested. And it turns out they were. So yes, it is. I do sometimes shudder when I realize that it is available for people to buy. But yes, I suppose I don't know whether that's ah, it's a funny one, isn't it? If I had written it intending other people to read it,
Hmm.
would I have written it differently? Would I have been less honest? Would I have been less brutal in how I describe myself and my own life? Yeah, I do wonder about that.
Good questions. So you
Yeah.
didn't make any edits
I
when
mean,
you
yes,
went,
I did. I did make
but
edits,
not
but
major
I
content wise.
really tried to keep it raw because a lot of the books that you do find about doubt are they're quite often written in hindsight, or they are a kind of more academic treatment of the subject, so kind of talking you through the different stages of faith or something. I wanted, I was desperate to read something of someone in the thick of it going, blah, kind of exploding that onto a page so that I knew that kind of my worst moments were echoed in someone else's worst moments, that it really
Hmm.
wasn't just me. So
Mm-mm.
I did try to keep it, yeah, as raw and honest as I could bear, really. And as I could bear, my parents to read. Yeah, yeah.
I commend you for that. I am in the process of finishing a book as well, and
Oh, wow.
I relate so much to what
Yeah,
you're saying. I'm the only difference is I am writing it with the intent to publish it, and so I do have to check myself
yeah,
sometimes. Um,
yeah.
it's not easy to show up raw and
No, it's not.
honest and
No,
open,
no. I think
but
it was definitely fueled by being so close to that kind of
mhm,
desperation within myself to read something like it. Yeah.
yeah, I can see that. I'd like to talk about the difference between safe spaces and brave spaces. And safe spaces don't, in theory, I believe they can exist. For instance, this interview, I try my
Yeah.
best to keep them a safe space. Perhaps a therapist and client relationship or a coach and client relationship. But most of the time, I think we the onus is on us as humans to create brave spaces, and you definitely have
Mm.
taken steps to do that, both in writing your memoir but then publishing it,
Yeah.
and then being open and honest on your Instagram account and inviting people into your space. So I
Mm.
commend you
Thank you.
for that. I believe the more we do that, it invites others to also
Yeah, yeah.
do it.
And that's exactly the point, isn't it? I think that's why we
Hmm.
both are in this space doing what we do is to create even a very small, tiny bit of Instagram just that is safe for people and safe for them to actually be honest and trying to
Yeah.
work to increase the surface area of those safe spaces and, talk about
Hmm.
it in not just the internet, but in churches and interviews and all sorts. It's just trying to normalize the conversation about doubt is something that I'm just hugely,
Yeah.
hugely passionate about. Yeah.
So, for those that are listening, what suggestions or advice would you offer about creating or stepping into those brave spaces for
Hmm.
themselves?
I suppose what needs to be acknowledged is that yes, I found it difficult to open up to my friends and family, but
Uh-huh.
actually I didn't lose anything. I wasn't kind of, ostracized or kicked out of any kind of friendship group. I did have brilliant responses, some less brilliant responses, but nothing horrendous. And that isn't the case for some people. For some people, they are in situations where it really is very difficult to open up, and being brave and talking about things could have real life consequences. So it's something I'm very aware of, that I'm very privileged in that kind of, in my circumstances. I think for some people, it's just about finding one person that they can create understanding with. But even finding that one person can be difficult. So sometimes you can find that person in a book or on a podcast like this. It's just finding some arena which makes you feel seen, I think, is sometimes what the definition, of a safe or brave space is for people. For years for me, it was finding people in books who there'd be, a throwaway paragraph in a whole book that I would read through just to get to the bit where they admitted that they had sometimes had doubts. And it'd be like, yes, there's one more to make me feel less alone. So I think safe spaces can definitely look different depending on your circumstances.
Definitely. I appreciate you acknowledging that not everyone has that. And also, all it takes is one. That is so true. If we can find one place, at least for in the beginning, where we feel seen, or where we find somebody else who
and
can relate.
Probably very unwisely, well, no, not unwisely. I keep my DMs open on Instagram so that anybody can send me a message, and I do get a lot of people to whom I become that one person, and I go back and forth on a few messages just saying, it's not just you, and people absolutely pour out their lives to what is in effect a stranger on the internet, because they can see that I can understand. So yes, DMs are open.
Yes, they are. I have made a lot of friends virtually.
Yes, me too.
Including you. And at times it's a lifeline. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So share with us, how has your faith journey been different than maybe you anticipated, from the time you were young? Like, how is it different than what you expected it might be?
I mean, as a child, I expected it to be, you make the decision and then it's literally a happily ever after story, a fairy tale. Once I'd started struggling with things, it felt like there were two options available to me. Either that I would fix myself, get rid of all the questions and go back to the happily ever after, or that, doubts meant the end of the journey and I'd just have to walk away completely. What I didn't expect was that the middle ground, which is where I am, which is having a faith and it being a hugely, hugely important part of my life, but still having questions. I didn't foresee the third option. And what I suppose I especially didn't see when I was, really in the thick of the doubt, was that I would ever reach a point where I wouldn't be scared of it anymore. And not to be, excessively holy about it, but it was reading the Bible, funnily enough, that helped me get to that place. And just actually looking at the way Jesus responded to people who were struggling. He didn't kind of shun them or walk away from them. He literally walked towards them, hands outstretched. And that was kind of the second pivot point that I talked about earlier, where I suddenly began to think, maybe what is more valuable to God is my honesty and my integrity and not pretending, because I don't think, that's not a relationship, is it? If the one person is just not giving themselves at all and keeping it all hidden. So that really began the process of dissolving the fear around doubt, which has allowed me to move forwards. Yeah.
That is amazing. I love that. And I have also experienced that in a similar way, that really a lot of us that are going through these significant, unexpected pivots, turns in our faith journey, now faith expansion, is we're just trying to hold to our integrity and to respect that and to honor that. And thank you for saying that and sharing that. It's so important.
At the end of the day, all we can offer is ourselves. And I don't want to offer, just a tiny part of me and ignore the rest that's struggling. I want to be able to give it all. So that's it. Show up, all of me there, completely with integrity, just not pretending and not splitting myself again. If I'm not going to split myself up and pretend for other people, then I have to believe that that is what is valuable to God as well.
What you say makes me think of, I've mentioned this before on other episodes, other interviews, not yet here, but a big part of what caused a pivot in my faith journey is when I learned my kiddo's identity is LGBTQ plus, and it's been quite some years now, over 5 now. But this concept that you're talking about, not pretending, not living a split life. You said at the end of the day, all we can be is ourselves. That's all we have to offer, in a very, very small way. I'm in no way comparing the two experiences as equal, or anything like that. But it's given me a taste. Like, okay, just because I don't understand something doesn't mean it doesn't exist for someone else. Right. And I've long since come around regarding, how I was raised, how I was taught to see those who experience gender and sexuality in a different way than I do. But this experience of holding to my integrity regarding how my faith journey has helped me evolve as a person and changed me and whatnot. Like, there comes this, it's almost a breaking point. You have to lean into who you are and are becoming.
Yeah, definitely. Because if you continue in that way without kind of letting it out, it can just have devastating consequences on you.
It can. It does. It does, and it can. Yeah. Well, one question I love to ask each of my guests, the kind of to wrap up, is what does it mean to you to live beyond the shadow of doubt? I don't know about your upbringing, but to say you knew something beyond the shadow of a doubt was a common thing to say or to claim. And I have purposely chosen this title for my podcast, dropping the A, in an effort to let's peel away the shame and drop the stigma. So what are your thoughts on that? What does it mean to you to live beyond the shadow of doubt?
My thoughts on that are very centered on the change to the meaning of the sentence when you drop the A. Because obviously, to probably most people, that phrase would mean beyond doubt, so not having doubts. The way it hits me is actually beyond the shadow of doubt. So moving past the shame of doubt and the stigma of doubt and hitting the points, to extend the metaphor, the sun of doubt, and getting out from behind the cloud. And I suppose, a good kind of message to begin to close the podcast on is that in hindsight, once I'd got past that awful stage, doubt has been a huge kind of catalyst for growth in my faith. If I hadn't have had these questions and hadn't really had to examine what I thought and what impact that had on my life and where I saw it backed up in my life, I'd be in such a different place, because it would have just kind of
definitely,
it would have carried on, but not in a very real way. Doubt really forced me to grow. And I think that's the part of doubt that we often miss by being so scared of it, that it can be a real kind of a refiner's fire. It can, chip away at stuff and force us to reconsider and reflect and, hopefully mature within that process. So that's I don't know whether that's a understanding of the sentence that
Hmm.
resonates with you, but it was just this idea that yes, there are shadow sides to doubt, but that doesn't have to be the only way. So it can be, yeah, can be
Oh,
a
I
good.
love that. That's great. There's no right or wrong answers. I
Yeah,
just
good,
love,
good. Not going to fail the test.
no, I love to hear each of my guests' understanding and thoughts on
Mm,
that. That's perfect. It does force us to grow. And
yeah.
yeah, I haven't, the phrase refiner's fire is something I
Mm.
remember learning about. I haven't thought about that in a long time, but yeah, you're right. It is a
It's
refiner's fire.
it's a lyric in a very popular song over here, probably from the 80s now, but it still gets sung a lot. So I guess it sticks in my head.
That's great. Yeah, I think I'm on fire
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Well,
definitely.
this has been just lovely. If you'll humor me, I love to throw out a few for fun questions to get to know my guests a little better. And I'm just looking for one or two word
Yeah,
answers.
okay.
Tell us your favorite book
Oh no, that's such a difficult question. I'm an absolute bookworm. My
or
favorite
a
book,
favorite book, just one.
okay. Um, I have just read a book, let's go with that, which is
Okay.
it's not going to be a two-word answer. It's called The Murder of Mr. Wickham, and it is a murder mystery with all of the main protagonists from all of Jane Austen's novels, but written in the
Oh my
style of Jane
goodness.
Austen. Incredible book. Yeah, there you go.
That sounds
It
awesome.
is, and I picked it up expecting it to be kind of towards chick lit kind of territory, but it wasn't. It was beautifully written and filled with so many kind of in jokes from all of the different books. So
That sounds amazing.
strong
Okay, I'm
recommend.
looking that one up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fun. Okay, tell us who your favorite artist is.
Mm.
You choose the
I
genre.
I love impressionism art.
Hmm.
So maybe Monet. I just think
Hmm.
those water lilies, they're just beautiful, aren't they?
They are
Um,
definitely. Well,
yeah.
my next question, I think I know the answer to. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? You've already told us.
Very introverted.
Yes. Are you a night owl or a morning lark?
Probably a morning lark. Yeah.
Mm. And do you have a celebrity crush?
Oh, um, what have I? Oh, do you know what? It's such a standard answer, but I've just been rewatching some of Grey's Anatomy.
Hmm.
So, McDreamy, Derek Shepherd is up there.
Patrick Dempsey. That's a
Yeah,
good one too.
Patrick Dempsey.
Do you do still or carbonated water, or are you a diet soda fan, or
I would
even something
always
else?
drink still water at home and always drink sparkling at restaurants.
Fun. I like that.
Makes it a bit more fancy.
It does. And then last one is what is the furthest place you have traveled to?
Oh, I'm trying to work out which is further. I think India is the furthest I've traveled from the UK.
Ooh,
I've also
fun.
been to the Caribbean. Don't judge me if I've got that the wrong way around,
I
but
don't
yes,
know. No judging. Yeah, I don't
I
know from the UK,
yeah,
which is further.
I spent
What
a
part of
month in
India?
India. Andhra Pradesh, so southern India. I spent a month there during university. It was, yeah, life
How?
changing.
Yes. How fantastic. That sounds great. Well, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to have this interview. I will leave your Instagram handle in the show
Thank you.
notes
Yeah,
about underscore doubt, and then also a link to your book,
thank
Let's
you.
Talk
Yeah.
About Doubt. I'm looking that one up as soon as we're done here,
I'll
too. Two
send you a
books on the
copy.
list.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, and I'm so grateful to get to connect and have this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all that you do.
First Friday's free coaching, a confidential group to bring all the questions, vent frustrations, share fears, express doubts. Navigating a new and uncertain reality is hard enough. Let's remove the worry of judgment from others. In this group, I will help you help yourself so that you can be there for your child, family, loved ones, and for you too. Click the link in the show notes to sign up. You must complete the agreement. Hopeful Spaces is a Dallas Hope Charities component of Hopeful Discussions, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA. It's a free monthly parent, ally, or caregiver support group facilitated by Megan Skidmore Coaching. Email chc@dallashopecharities.org for more info. Visit meganskidmorecoaching.com to find this podcast and additional free resources, including the link for a complimentary coaching session. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram for more, or to send me a DM. Help the podcast grow. Please follow, review, and share with a friend.